The Final Frontier. These are your adventures as you explore, seeking out new life and civilizations, expanding your borders and exploiting the resources you find, befriending allies, or exterminating the foes that get in your way.
Contact detected entering sector. Configuration unknown. Assessing. Initiating countermeasures.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Star Trek New Worlds. In today's episode, what will we be talking about? Well, as per the thumbnail, we're going to have a rather in-depth discussion, or perhaps a tete-a-tete around the state of the game and whether this is the end of the game that we know as Federation and Empire. But due to the heroic efforts of our fantastic GM, Daniel Eastland, yes, we actually have a turn update. We have turn 58 in hand, and we're going to talk about that turn as well. But before I get going and really start to ride this roller coaster of gaming goodness, what is Star Trek New Worlds? Well, we are an online community here playing this wonderful turn-based strategic game online here with you today on YouTube Live. We play it inspired by the rule set of Federation and Empire as published by the Amarillo Design Bureau, and the magic of the map that you will see here momentarily is produced through the magic of Vassal. Yes. So if it is your first time here, then please, and if you like all things Star Trek and turn-based strategy, or just strategy in general, please feel free to be like Alan, hit that subscribe button down below. But if you want to delay that and just kind of watch what's going on, then please feel free to do so. Hit that like button just to tickle the YouTube algorithm in just the right way. And of course, if you are a return viewer and you love what we're doing, then you can go to the next level. Hit that QR code or that link down below, and you can fire a photon of caffeinated goodness to keep us motivated, stimulated, and lubricated to be able to give you, that is the larynx lubricated, to give you the latest and greatest updates on what is going on here. Let me take a quick sip to wet my whistle. Oh, yes. All right. So, shall we? Before we get into, and just to tease you a little bit of the exciting, fantastical fun that is coming our way. Ooh, the alliteration is just flowing off the tongue today. We're going to go into our Galactic news. Ooh, is that too loud? All right. Apparently, I have not looped. There we are. Welcome to the Galactic news. Galaxy today. If it isn't true, we aren't telling it. Size matters. Scientists from the Klingon Science Corporation, partnered with the IDF, have thoroughly investigated the illegal lab found several weeks ago. Apparently, someone was performing research on the construction of a battleship, a warship so massive it would dwarf even modern dreadnoughts. The extracted data was quickly sealed and returned to the High Command. We here at GNN have been informed that the Klingon government will make sure such deadly knowledge will never fall into the wrong hands. Break on through to the other side. Borak exploration efforts have redoubled in recent years. The results of their efforts in that they have opened up shipping lanes to every doorstep, to the very doorstep of all their neighbors. It is expected that their ever profit-conscious corporate trading branch of the Borak will not be far behind. If good fences make good neighbors, surely fenced goods will do the same. Growing pains. Rapid growth of the Carnarvon shipbuilding industry has finally hit a logistical wall. The pace of construction has been feverish until this month when the logistics chain got snarled beyond a quick fix and a scheduled ship failed to complete on time. Carnarvon High Command has given assurances that the issues highlighted in this temporary setback will be addressed with due diligence and resolved with prejudice. The shipbuilders' union was unavailable for comment, but the shipbuilders' union was unavailable for comment from the penal colony where their leadership now resides. Big hunt as the Federation and Kzinti establish a border and more peaceful relations. The Federation remains active. A major engagement with the mysterious raiders took place in Sector November 39, led by the ISC-constructed dreadnought USS Unity. The Federation Task Force annihilated the strange and technologically advanced raider ships with only minor losses. Vulcan spokesperson have stated that they are taking steps to secure the sacred sovereignty and stability of their sizable state. Cloaked intentions. Dun dun dun. Lyran forces have raided the Romulan homeworld. After years of tense but peaceful relations, the Lyran home fleet charged across the border and engaged Romulan forces. An intense but brief battle ensued, with several small ships being wrecked on each side. Was this a warning shot or the beginning of a full-scale invasion? While the Lyran fleet dwarfs that of their foe, the reclusive Romulans remain resolute, resisting the realistic resolution of this regrettable recidivism must represent. And that, my friends, wow, was the Galactic news. Oh my goodness. Okay, so some minor changes there with the background set. There was supposed to be some background music. I didn't hear it. Did you hear it? You let me know in the comments below. All right, so that is the latest and greatest Galactic news on what's going on. Let's slide over to the table where we can talk about the latest and greatest on the economy and how things are progressing. Just as an FYI, I've been periodically informed that that particular transition we just did with the sliding doors was a little too loud. I adjusted the audio levels. You let me know in the commentary if that was better, or do you want that audio lower? Just let me know and I can make the change. All right, as you can see here, things are changing. Now, the spacing here is a little off, so the scale of the graph or the trajectory of the graph might seem a little misrepresented. But you can see here on the graph, turn 57 to turn 58, and there are some significant changes, or at least what looks like to be some significant changes, and we'll go over them. So from top to bottom, we can see the Tholians are at 55 EP. That's the state of their economy. They are the lowest faction, or lowest, try this again. They are the lowest total economy in the game, which means they get to go first. That's fantastic. The ISC in the number 2 position at 57.5. The Hydrants following up with 59, only to be eked out by the Lyrans 59.5. The Kzinti, oh, ladies and gentlemen, a photon has been fired. Obviously, this economic extrapolation is so stimulating that someone just had to let a photon go, and I will celebrate that with a caffeinated piece of lubricating goodness. Thank you. Un momento. A mystery antagonist has sent that off. Thank you so much. Okay, so where are we here? We had Hydrants at 59, the Lyrans eking ahead at 59.5. The Kzinti staying stable if I can get that word out without stuttering too much, staying stable at 62. And this just makes me so happy. The Borak have officially cracked the bottom 5. We are now in the top half of the economic ladder. I'm so proud. So proud of my peeps. Okay, so enough melodrama aside. 63 is where the Borak sit. The Paravians, 68, staying well ahead of those pesky, bothersome Borak. But they are still quite a gap away from the Federation at their 76.5. The Carnivon, still light years. There we are, light years ahead. February is still on my mind. At 85, and of course, the Klingons still leading the pack, well ahead of everyone else at 90.5. Without a doubt, they will be the first to hit double digits. Oh my goodness. Okay. One thing I will point out on the graph that you will see here, notice the trajectory of the income. So from turn to turn, you can see from 57 to 58, the Klingons relatively flat. They went up an EP, but relatively flat. Who do we see that are on that sort of upward trajectory? Well, certainly the Carnivon are killing it. Look at that line. It's like steady increase, turn after turn after turn. The Federation also making a course correction in turn 55, and they have started to eke up once again. The Paravians continuing to grow turn after turn, but sort of a steady growth as opposed to back in, around turn 46 where they were just expanding like bananas. The Kzinti, flat, essentially, but the Borak just taking over because, of course, you will see here in a moment, as was highlighted in the Galactic News, the dice were very favorable this past turn, and it's really just a matter of luck, along with copious amounts of exploration. So that's what's going on there. And then, of course, we have the other folks at the bottom of the pack here, the Lyrans, the ISC, and the Tholians. And the Hydrons all sort of staying static, but don't think that that is somehow an indication of their lack of progress. They've just been dealing with and have been sorting out their various constraints around borders and various other things. Turn over turn, this isn't sort of a big deal. It's more like looking at the trajectory over 5 turns where you see that going. And of course, you can see here from turn 53 to turn 58, that's the 5-turn trajectory. You can see everybody is going up. The big difference really is how much, like what's the angle of attack on that, or angle of inclination, you might say, on that graph. And certainly the big winners as far as the improvements is certainly the Carnivon, the Federation, and I would say the Borak as the top 3. Klingons aren't too shabby either, but as far as increase over that 5-term period, those are probably, without a doubt, the big winners in the degree to which they've improved their economy. All right, so I will digress, and I shall return to our chitter chat screen. Here we go. All right, so before we get into the map and we really sort of get into the bits and pieces of this turn, let's talk about what was on the thumbnail, and briefly just go over sort of what the state of the game is. So in our community, when I put up that thumbnail, there was a little bit of activity, thinking that one of our campaigns was coming to an end spontaneously. And I feel like I'm about to sneeze here. So if I look like I'm about to sneeze, that's why. My nose is tickling. So that's not the case. But I wanted to talk about the state of the game of Federation and Empire. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, and you've been following us along, and you've heard me say this game, Federation Empire, what is it? Well, back in the 80s, there was a company that had the license for Star Trek. Now, you might remember Star Trek, the original series. Many of us do. Originally was broadcast in 1967, produced by Desilu Productions, Desi Arnaz and Lucy. I was about to say Lucy Lawless. My goodness. Why am I forgetting Lucy's last name? Anyways, I Love Lucy, of I Love Lucy fame. There was Lucy and Denny, as in Desilu. Denny and Lucy. My goodness. Anyways, they produced Star Trek, and so the license for Star Trek was owned by, I think at that point might have been NBC, but either way, CBS Paramount was a studio all to itself, and it had all of Star Trek back when the motion picture came out and the things were going forward, and so the license was all under one roof, and then CBS Paramount broke up and split into CBS and Paramount, and as a result, the licensing fractured, and whereas Star Trek the original series and the animated series were all part of that same chunk, they were regulated to CBS, and the rest of it was regulated to Paramount. So there were two separate IPs related to Star Trek, and one, you can aesthetically tell the difference. When you look at Star Trek the original series, there's a very, thank you, Lucille Ball, thank you, my goodness. So when it comes to Star Trek, you can see it. Like, there's the colored brassards, the very smooth look to the ships, obviously based on the, the visual effects technology of the time. And so there was a certain aesthetic and a feel and a look to that particular IP. And then as we progressed into the sort of the 80s movies, I know motion picture was before that, but motion picture to Star Trek 6, we had a different aesthetic. And that represented a different IP. And of course, Star Trek: The Next Generation and the design language that came along with that, the way those ships looked, and going forward all through, DS9, Voyager, and even, I suppose, into Enterprise, there was a continuity there. But unfortunately now we are in this weird place where the IP is all broken, shattered in all sorts of different places. And you've seen this sort of represented in the J.J. Abrams Star Trek universe, and then Discovery. And even now with Strange New Worlds, the look is slightly different. The feel is slightly different. It's not sort of representative of what many of us who were the original series fans, what we sort of came to know and like and love about Star Trek. And contrast that with another science fiction franchise that perhaps you might like, Star Wars. Now, Star Wars, granted, the original Star Wars, 1977, fantastic set of movies. Those first three movies, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. The design language, the aesthetic, the feel from those movies carried on into the prequels and even the movies and the different content we see today. But the reason why I would argue, that it's remained so consistent and the quality of it sort of has maintained that flow is because it's always been under one house. Now, while today it's under the House of Mouse, that was previously Lucasfilm. Maybe Lucasfilm will somehow George Lucas will be able to get it out from Disney at some point in the future. Who knows? But anyways, Disney owns Lucasfilm right now. Lucasfilm owns the rights to it, and it's all under one house. So why am I bringing up this IP stuff? Well, because Federation Empire has a specific license associated with the original series and the animated series, that stuff that's owned by CBS. And they, at the time when they set out that particular now, I don't know all the nitty-gritty details of their legal contract, but they don't have the same kind of IP flexibility that perhaps some other, for example, gaming studios or other content creators of some type might have associated with different IP. So their tabletop war game, which is what Federation Empire is, was set up under a license that allowed them to do just that. But it did not allow them to be able to expand that system into video games and leverage other forms of media going forward. So what does that mean? What does that mean? So right now we have a game, Federation Empire, that has a very large, thick reference document, which is the rules for it. And it is it's not being presented in a format that's easily digestible. We here on this channel with the game that we play, we say inspired by Federation Empire because what we're doing is we're taking elements of those rules and reinterpreting them with some house rules to be able to facilitate 4X play. Because Federation Empire is not a 4X game. It's like Axis and Allies with Star Trek as a theme. maybe a little bit more complicated, but it's a chunky, as some folks would say, gribbly game with a Star Trek theme, and it is specifically lives in a tabletop environment. We are replicating that tabletop environment to a certain degree with the vassal maps that you see, and what we have going on here on this channel. But the problem is, and this is why the thumbnail, is this the end of this game, or is this game going to die, is because Federation and Empire and those who own the game, ADB, Amarillo Design Bureau, there's no energy, no effort, no work seemingly going into getting new players into the game. Give you an example of someone doing this. So whether you like TSR, WotC, Hasbro, the folks that own D&D goes through all these different republications, right? There was first edition, second edition, third, fourth, and now fifth. And now they're coming out with whatever, D&D 1 or whatever the new D&D game is. And so why do they do that? Well, they need to sell books, and so in order to sell books, they revamp the rules. So there's an economic reason why they keep doing that, and it's kind of annoying for us as consumers. You keep republishing new stuff, changing the rules, and then my previous stuff doesn't work anymore. But having been a guy who played first edition AD&D and second edition, those two were interchangeable. You could use first edition references in a second edition framework. It worked out just fine. I dropped off the D&D scene during 3 and 4 and really into 5, but today there was a huge boom, obviously, between 2016 and now with 5th edition. And but those republishings, one of the things that happens when you kind of renew those games is you have a new coat of paint, reimagining. In the case of 5th edition, a simplification of the game, a redesign that allowed in 5th edition, by example, and why it was so successful, it made it more accessible to a younger audience. And that's something that Federation Empire hasn't done. Now, if you look in the mirror and you think about how old you are and how, when you were born and the kinds of things you think about when you play this game, you have a certain frame of reference. But the question is, when you look around and you think about other people who play this game, how old are they? How young are they or not? And are we getting new players to play this game? And why wouldn't we? Like, what's holding that back? The issue is that this game, Federation and Empire, and sort of our homebrew variation of this 4X thing that we play, we struggle to have a renewing community of players, or a growing community of players that keeps adding to the player base. So what does that mean? That means that we have a ever shrinking group of players that are interested in this game, that want to play this game, that are able to play this game. And so instead of having a group that keeps getting smaller, what can we do to grow that player base, to grow the community, and make the game itself healthier? So with all that said, I'm not going to give you any answers. I'm just throwing out the question because I've been playing variations of this game now since 2017. And it's all been the homebrew version, this 4X version. I played Federation Empire way back when, in the 90s, I think. And I just played it once on the tabletop. And it was a lot to take in. I was a teenager at the time, and it was very complicated. It was a lot, as opposed to like Risk or even Axis and Allies, which is more complicated than Risk, but like you can quickly pick that up and play it. This game, one of the challenges about this game is that it's quite complicated. There's all sorts of different steps, and you have to know all the different steps. You have to look up the rules. The rules are huge. And this is a personal pet peeve. It drives me crazy that it's just something simple, that ADB doesn't publish a single PDF copy of the amalgamated rules. Not hard to do. Just buy an amalgamated version that you can then search through. Because the way those rules are, for those of you who've looked through the rules, the way they're structured, is that when you buy the expansions, the rules are numbered so that you can slot them in, for all intents and purposes, into the pre-existing rule set. That's great. That's fantastic. It makes it easy to understand. But when you're looking up rules, because honestly, I personally have trouble finding the rules I'm looking for if I'm looking through a hard copy, because there are so many pages. So what do? I have a PDF copy and I Control F. I do a search function for a keyword and then I can find the rules much faster. But I can't effectively do that if I have 5 or 6 different supplements. I have to open all those different supplements and do the same keyword search. Wouldn't it be easier if there was just one master document? And that sort of exists. ADB has the War Book, which is sort of like a draft document that they have internally or within a select group of people that gets circulated. But it's not available for purchase. And I would like to see, at least as a beginning step, have ADB publish an amalgamated War Book style reference that you can then buy with all the updated rules. And then perhaps if you have a subscription model, then you can just get the updates as you go, along with Captain Log and everything else. And it would be great to see that, because then it would be easier to access the rules, not to mention like all the other stuff. And I know the licensing, I don't know for certain, but I expect that their licensing does not allow for an online version of this game for them to publish. It would be nice to see something like that so we could see that happen. Anyways, I digress. The reason I brought this up is because when it comes down to it, the way the game is structured, the amount of energy going into publishing the game and curating the game and making this go forward, it is being done in a way that is not exciting to a younger audience, that is not engaging to new players. It is not accessible to those who are not exposed to this environment before. Yes, we have SFB, Starfleet Battles. Yes, we have sort of other games within the ADB family. When it comes to F&E, which is the strategic gameplay, not the tactical ship-to-ship stuff, then this game is, my assessment is that this game is dying. And is only through our, as a player base, collective efforts to try and keep this game going that we're able to play this game at all. It would be great to see ADB put some energy and effort into making it survive, or whoever can take it off their hands. If we need to see a change of ownership or a selling of the IP or whatever it is, but let's just make this game, put some energy and effort into making this game more accessible, more available, and growing the player base. What's the outcome we need? More people playing this game so that we can enjoy it. Because I don't know about you, I enjoy playing this Star Trek-based fantasy stuff. Star Trek-based strategy game. Whether it's turn-based, real-time, whatever, I like this. It's fun. I enjoy it. Hopefully you do too. So with that said, I see there's lots of Big Slow Target. You're unloading it. I love it. Let's dive into the chat and see what you're saying. Okay. So Dell, let's go back to what Dell said at the very beginning. The source books are not newbie friendly. And that's a big issue with it right there. Bang. Absolutely. That huge text document, so hard to get through. And especially like, why are you going to waste your time? There's so many other games out there that you could play that don't require that sort of sunk cost investment just to start playing the game. It's crazy. And here we go. Big Slow Target. Here we go. All right, BST. ADB does not publish a consolidated set of rules. Yeah, annoys the heck out of me too, he says. There was a project that linked all the rules in SFB together, but nothing like that yet exists for F&E. Why not? It's not hard. If you have all the PDF masters, like you can amalgamate all of them into one document. It doesn't take a lot. And from a publisher, I would expect it. And the fact that you don't do it, ADB, is unsat. And you are all, and I speak directly to ADB, you're all ex-military guys like me. You know what's going on. When standing orders, fleet orders, when those references get updated from your standards organization, they publish a new version, an amalgamated version where you can see all the references as opposed to going down all these rabbit holes to find stuff. Sort yourself out. Get that done. Not that I'm getting heated about it at all. Okay, Big Slow Target. It was a Python script that walked through the copy of the SFB book you had purchased and added the links. Allowed by Cole and the BBS last time I looked. Okay. BST says, I think your interpretation of the licensing may not be correct. Possibly. I mean, I don't have any hardcore reference documents I can look to. It'd be nice to know what exactly the situation with ADB is. Now, I know that those who have encountered ADB folks out in the wild have indicated that there is I will use friendly terminology, there is a prickliness to the discussion around issues around IP. And I don't know exactly where all that comes from. I have an idea, and I'm sure if you're watching this, you have an idea too. But at the end of the day, you got to stop being a jerk and start supporting the community, because the community are the people who buy your product. They play and use your product. They are the people who support your company. So support the community. Get out there, create stuff that makes it more accessible, more fun to play, and facilitate that stuff happening. Using, again, D&D as an example. Here's two contrasting examples. The OGL and the rise of things like Critical Role and online media surrounding D&D were the catalysts that saw the explosion in D&D. Whereas the recent OGL debacle and the reneging of the potential changing of the OGL, reneging how it looked, and the new edition, that whole dumpster fire is what burned so many D&D players from D&D, and why there is now a rise of alternate role-playing games being either crowdfunded or published to replace D&D. Why? Because D&D and Hasbro and WotC screwed up so bad because they had this antagonistic relationship with their users, their players, their community. You do that, and you're going to lose it. I would argue ADB is no Hasbro, no WotC, no D&D. They don't have that same community and player base. It's a much smaller community. So you need to do something to grow it, assuming you want to be successful and continue existing, past this decade. Anywho, what else we got here? And BST says, and yet F&E is beloved. No question about that. Absolutely. You know why? Because just like the prelude to Axanar was so popular, and, there's a whole bunch of drama around Axanar, and we won't get into that. But the prelude to Axanar was a huge success. That 20-minute short was so successful. Why? Because it touched on and scratched that itch of nostalgia trek that so many of us have, right? That's what we liked. That's what we wanted. That's what we craved. And we were missing that for so long. And so we got that. And that's what we were going after. Now, of course, the IP stuff around Discovery's launch and how that was all sort of, or whatever the motivations were behind how that all went sideways, it is what it is. But there is a strong community of us who enjoy and, will support Trek-based content. We just need some good Trek-based content, right? People are creating their own fan fiction stuff. This is the game, like the tabletop game stuff that we're talking about. Anyways, I could go on and on and on. Julian. Hey, Julian. Welcome back. Yeah, hard to imagine military guys who don't have a unified complete manual. Like, seriously. I know many of you who watch this channel or participate in this have some connection to the military in one way, whether you are serving, are a veteran, or have family members that are. But yeah, like as a military guy, like it blows my mind. And I understand when I see the format of that rule book, it's a military format. Like I've seen that a gazillion times. And so it initially makes sense to me. Does it make sense to the average person picking it up? Maybe, maybe not. But when I'm looking at the manual, I need the most up-to-date manual, version 1.2, 1.25, 1.3, 1. Whatever. I need the most up-to-date reference so that amalgamated so I can just look for what I need, as opposed to trying to connect all these disparate references. That's garbage. It sucks. It's inefficient. It's ineffective, and it doesn't work. Or at least it doesn't work to be able to sell the popularity of the game. So again, ADB, Take your head out of your ass and sort shit out. Not that I'm upset about it. Anyway, Daniel says, hey, Julian, important to keep in mind that important to keep in mind here that we are passionate about the game and the universe ADB made. We love it, and we want to see it stay vital. Yeah. The challenge is that there's not, it doesn't seem like, at least from my vantage point, there's not enough energy, interest, investment in the game. And I would argue that, like, for example, if a game like Civilization can have such a huge degree of success. Okay, so Civilization originally published in, 91? The first one. And it's on version 6 now. But that version 6 was published, I think, in 2018. It still is one of the most played games, like top 100 games, and I think it's probably in the top 25. Online games played today on Steam. And the previous version, Civ 5, is also in that top tier list on like a daily total players online metric. It's an old school turn-based strategy game, and yet we still see that being so popular. So there's obviously a market for it. Why don't ADB you get organized and help support creating an online interface to be able to play the game? Automate the rules implementation, create scripts, bots, AI, whatever technology you need to be able to allow a newbie player to pick it up and play it. I mean, there's so many ways that could work, and I don't know what the intellectual, I don't know about the licensing, about whether you have licensing for that or not. But again, ADB, we need something. Partner with somebody. If we want to keep playing this game, if we want there to be a game to play, stuff needs to happen. Investment needs to be made to make this game good. Okay. BST says, hey, exactly, Daniel. I'm serious about it being loved by many. People have dedicated tremendous effort to it. A project to automate F&E was announced at StratCon last year. Okay, yeah, so there is... and I apologize, I'd have to look it up right now, but there is a guy, I think it's called Project Warspite, who is creating an online user, or not online, but a new user interface to play Federation Empire on your computer. And different than what we have here in Vassal, where it's automated and it's easier to pick up and play. Now, I think that's great, and I would love to see a variation of it with the 4X that we play in mind. Because one of the challenges that we have as a group of players is GMs, or Game Masters. So we have players and we have Game Masters, and the Game Masters playing this game, because it's turn-based and everything, is a very manually cumbersome process. Processing the economy, the battles, all the stuff that goes into every turn is a lot of work. And to be fair, there is only a certain kind of person who is able, willing, and competent to be able to be a GM. And those people are very few and far between relative to the number of players we can get. And we already established the community is small, so it's hard to find the right number of people who want to get together and play this game. It's challenging. It's tough. And we get, GMs suffer from burnout. There's so much that they do, and there's life that happens around you, and then they get slowed down. So if we could automate those systems, those processes, and those are easily done because we have games in the world that are published today that do it, can we make an automated system that allows players to just interact and play a multiplayer game in this way? Yes, we can. There needs to be some effort to do it. Okay. Julian, this is purely an unsupported opinion. Fair. But I think part of the lack of acceptance has to do with the departure from ST canon. In the sense, are you saying, Julian, that F&E is the departure from ST canon? Because the Starfleet universe is, of course, a little different. Or are you talking about the most recent stuff with the JJ universe, the Abrams universe and Discovery and all that stuff, and how the timelines are splitting in all sorts of different ways and the IP is fractured when compared to Star Wars, which is coherent and concise, right? I mean, even when the preludes came out, the ones where Anakin was featured and stuff, the prequel Star Wars movies were consistent in the sense that they were showing a state of the universe prior to the rise of the Empire and the fall of sort of civilization and everything. And so there was an aesthetic difference there that was shown, and it was totally appropriate. And even now, when we see like The Mandalorian and other things that are sort of touching into even the Ahsoka series, whether you like all that stuff or not, the aesthetic, the storyline, the narrative is consistent. We don't have that in Star Trek, at least not right now. And the Picard series, that whole progression, messy. Okay. George Forknell, Tony, why not invite the ADB rep to come on the live stream and discuss their initiatives to make F&E more player friendly? Would love to do that, except the problem is reaching out to ADB is not easy. And the brief interactions via text that I have had with the odd person has not leaned itself to any kind of suggestion that they would be willing to participate in anything resembling a public forum to be able to discuss the game. But I would love to have like an interview with ADB, representatives of, to be able to talk to and discuss the game and how things are going forward and what they're working on and where we see the future of the game and so on. The problem is I don't think that the individuals involved are either interested or capable of doing that. So, I don't know. It is what it is. Julian. BST. Nothing ADB can do to be a new canon. Well, nothing under current licensing. SVC has been clear about that. Remind me what SVC is, BST. All those acronyms. Yeah, Big Slow Target, remind me what SVC is. Julian says, yes to both. I think Star Trek fans, I think most Star Trek fans consider that the canon stopped after the end of the Voyager series. Fact. Yeah, totally. George, I'll give you a thumbs up on that, brother. Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind Enterprise. It wasn't terrible. I liked sort of the more tactile, analog sort of feel of it. But you're right. Like even Enterprise went down a weird road, right? They introduced so much stuff that wasn't sort of part of the history and the canon and yada yada yada. So I mean, it is what it is. Stephen V. Cole, gotcha. Has been clear about that. Okay. Nothing ADB can do to be in the new canon. Well, nothing under the current license. Oh, great. So here, that's a great opportunity, right? So I'll give you another example from D&D. So D&D gaming system, and generally speaking, sort of an umbrella environment to create narratives. But within D&D, there's Dragonlance, Forgotten Realms, Ravenloft. Like you've got all these worlds that you exist in. They're all similar. They all have similarities, and there's some consistency about classes and races and things like that all across these different universes, with some slight tweaks. Like Dragonlance has some very unique things around magic and clerics and knights and so on. So you could do the same thing with Star Trek. The Starfleet universe can be created, designed, and sold as its own thing. It doesn't need to be Star Trek. Call it the Starfleet universe, a Starfleet universe story. Just like the Marvel Cinematic Universe is its thing. The DCEU was its thing, and now there's a DCU that's happening, right? Like, there are ways to make that happen, and especially with an audience, especially a younger audience, that is very familiar with, like, multiple storylines, concurrent universes, and all the stuff that's going on now. We could absolutely do that. Absolutely do that. Anyway, BST. I mean, ADB will never incorporate Next Generation, Voyager, J.J. Abrams, Enterprise, etc. They're straight TOS. And that's fine. Just like Axanar was TOS, right? Axanar was popular because it scratched that sort of itch. And instead of going down this road where we're constantly creating new stuff and making things new and exciting, why don't we just go just like same time frame, but just before the Kirk and Pike era, right? Like that's essentially what Strange New Worlds is. But we could go into that FASA universe or the Starfleet universe. I mean, FASA stuff was different than Starfleet universe, and it's all similar and related. There's so much room to do stuff there. So much room. Anyways, original series, animated series, hence Kazinti's Big Slow Target. True. And thanks for spelling the spelling correction on SVC. I screw that up sometimes. Okay. So look at that. We've spent 45 minutes talking about this wonderful topic. Let's move on to some more contextual stuff with regards to our game. All right. So as a reminder, we are in turn 58 of our game. And why don't I go to the map and we can talk about what is going on. Here we go. All right. So again, just give me a cue. Is that transition audio good for you? If the answer is yes, fantastic. If the answer is no, well, I'll amend the audio levels. Okay. So I'm zooming out big here so you can see the map. Again, this is Vassal, and so it's a bit of a chunky, slow. Wouldn't it be great to have a new user interface? Just throw that out there. So this is Vassal. You can see at the top of the map, we got the Klingons in gray and black, hard to see. The green, which is the Carnarvon. The yellow in the corner, which is the ISC. This weird blobby triangular thing that's happening, which is the Borak. Hate those guys. The Lyrans, which is the Lima Bean. We've got the Kazinti in white, the Federation in blue. We've got the Paravians in the center, orange and yellow. Tholians on the far left in red, and the Hydrons in the green on the right. Now, why am I at this big map? Because I want you to see the creation of these borders. So on the big screen here, you can see sort of, I'll zoom in a little bit just to make it a little bit easier to see. So you can see here between the blue Borak and the yellow ISC, you can see there is a neutral zone. And there's this dotted line on the far right. That's a free transit zone. That's part of our border agreement. Not too much to worry about there, but interesting nonetheless. As we scroll down, you can see this very solid horizontal line between the Kazinti and the Federation and the Lyrans and the Borak. So obviously, some negotiation has occurred, and there is a clear line of delineation right there. Okay. As we go down, you can see that the Kazinti have sort of boxed themselves in now. We see sort of the outlines of their border. The border that's been created between them and the Tholians in sort of this lane up the left side. You can see the Federation also sort of boxing themselves in a bit. You've got nothing on the south border with the Paravians, but certainly this diagonal border with the Hydrons. And the Paravians, not a lot of border discussion there, but somehow they've connected with the Hydrons and they've established a line there. Now, I'm very surprised that the Hydrons agreed to that particular line. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? You've got so much more reach. You could push that left a couple hexes without a doubt because he's slow to expand. Excuse me, and you are not. So what is going on there? Excuse me. Maybe you're just going to let him explore to you, and then you're going to unload with your M ships. We'll see. But anyway, that's the way it looks. Now, as we talked about before, when it came to the graph, and I'll just slide over to the graph real quickly here. Remember the economies, right? With the Klingons at the top at 90, and down the line. So just looking at our economies here, you can see the range is between 55 and 90. Wow, what a crazy range. And the angle of attack for the improvements in the economy. All right. Sliding back to the map, you can see as we zoom in, let's start with our big friends. I'll do one more out. The Klingons. Okay. So if we slide over here, top left, you can see there is the Derelict Size Class 2. That's new. Interesting little thing there. Or is that the lab? No, that can't be the lab. Let's see here. Take away the ships real quick. Yeah, no, that can't be the lab. That's a new thing. Very interesting to see. I'm sure he'll send something over there to check that out. We've got our trade route, of course, between the Carnarvon and the Klingons. And looking around, we've got on the top of the map, you can see there is a combination. So this is where that lab was with the R&D team, the survey ship, and the F4s, certainly up there. And of course, you've got the ability to be able to continue exploring with the large exploration freighters, small exploration freighters, and of course the D4E, which is a survey ship. So they're continuing, the Klingons, to continue to explore the sort of the backyard, we'll call it. And as we go down, nothing along the border with the Carnarvon, but certainly keeping up the push. Let's take away the ships real quick. Look at that push down this border. You can see building bases. So we got 94 fall, 94 fall, 95 spring. There is a consistent base building effort here to be able to get to the Lyrans. And note this. I believe we pointed out that the Klingons most likely have supply 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. With the building of this base, they can officially reach into, granted, just on the edge, but reach into Lyran space. So that's a big thing. Look at all the ships in this area. We've got, obviously, this tug building this base, but we've got cruisers with tugs, exploration ships, large exploration freighters, and really a real concentration of assets in this bottom right corner to be able to push down towards the Lyrans. I'll be interested to see the interaction between the Klingons and the Carnarvon with regards to getting down to this spot. Are the Klingons going to swing over and cut off the Carnarvon, potentially? Or is there an agreement on a straight line going down? For example, is the X and W lines right here, are those sort of the differentiator or the colluded to border without actually having a neutral zone? Is that the colluded border between the two? Interesting to note. I think I know from role-playing emails that I've seen, but it would be interesting to see how this goes going forward. And of course, don't forget this guy right here, base being built, or is it, hold on. Yep, being built, 95 spring, base being built with a tug, 3 F4s, and that shows up down here on the edge of Tholian space. Once they have the ability to go through, I think the Tholians are going to be in for a little bit of trouble because after all, that's the capital. That's the wormhole. The capital is where you build most of your ships. He can build ships and get them through that wormhole in one turn. It's going to be interesting. And of course, the Klingons are a big economic force, so what's that going to mean for the players? I don't know. That'll be interesting. Okay, that's the Klingons. We're going to slide across the top to do all three, then we're going to go back to the chat. All right, we are going to look at the Carnarvon. Now, before, remember, we talked about the Carnarvon and their sort of aggressive rate of expansion. This is good. They're doing a fantastic job. They are the first to pioneer in this game the exploration of space using cruisers. I think it was a great idea, and it's fantastic. Now, just to give you a quick visual reference, let's take away the ships, bring back the ships. Take away the ships, bring back the ships. What is it? Why am I doing that? Look at the wall of ships on the border here. Look at this. Okay, from the top going down to the bottom here. So, survey ship with a prime team, or small exploration freighter, cruiser, large exploration freighter, cruiser, survey ship, large exploration freighter, cruiser, survey ship, cruiser, tug, cruiser, light cruiser, cruiser, survey ship, light cruiser. Like, he's exploring, I would say, in force. Oh, which is great because he's not the only one doing that. But like, there's a big push to get this border like sorted out, and it's very interesting to see how quickly that's moving in that particular direction. So, but with all those pieces, ladies and gentlemen, another coffee has been fired. I think that's a hint that I need to wet my whistle and bring a little excitement and energy back to the game. All right, here we go. Las Muskrat, our Carnarvon player, has fired a coffee in our general direction. Photon in the face. Thank you very much. All right, so here we go. Let's look at the Carnarvon fleets just because I am sure, confident, positive, that all the good stuff is here. So we're going to pull up Home Fleet. Home Fleet is right here. Look at that. One single solitary DN just right there. Right here. Nothing going on there. Wolfpack 1, Wolfpack 2, Wolfpack 3. Those are the other major fleets that are going on. Let's assess the Wolfpacks. So, Wolfpack Wolfpack 1 has 2 drone bombardment destroyers, 2 commando ships, and a total of 6 frigates. Nothing crazy, but not insignificant either. And of course, they got a frigate and a diplomat trying to make things a little less unhappy here on this previously conquered planet. Wolfpack 2, which is down sort of in the Borak-facing direction. Command cruiser, interesting to note, with a drone bombardment destroyer and 5 frigates. So this looks like a pattern in the sense of setting up sort of like these picket fleets, which is good. You can see there's nothing really else there. And in this general area, you've got diplomat with a frigate. We talked about the surveys, the cruisers, tug, building a base here. Very interesting. So lots of activity here, and of course the proximity of ships with each other, which is great. Good stuff. As we slide this over, just to be able to see, so we've got Wolfpack 2 there. We've got Wolfpack 5. Oh, look at that, Wolfpack 5. So that's the bottom here with a destroyer and a total of 5 frigates. So a combination of some sort of like lead ship with frigate support seems to be the orientation here. Of course, 5 frigates plus another 3 on the base itself, so that's good. Over here on the border facing the Klingons, we've got Wolfpack 4, which is a destroyer. 3 frigates and 2 crippled frigates, so there'll be obviously some repair that will be concurrently happening there. And then up here, Wolfpack 3, again, sort of in the vicinity of the border, but not necessarily quite there. Wolfpack 3 is a drone bombardment destroyer, 3 frigates, and a crippled frigate. So obviously some repair action going on and a distribution of their fleet. One thing I did not do, and I will do that now, is discuss fleet cap, because fleet cap obviously tells us how many ships are being built or how many ships there are relative to every other faction. So let's take a quick look at fleet cap. I wish I could zoom in on this screen. So we got the Borak with 32 total ships. So last turn they had 31. Now they have 32. Not a lot of ships being built. Total of 90 attack, 188 defense, 191 total fleet cap. So there's still a crippled ship, and you can kind of see that right next to my head there. The Carnarvon, speaking of, have a total of 97 ships. They have a total ship count bigger than my total attack factor. Oh my God. That's ridiculous. Okay, so they have more than 3 times the total number of ships that I have, with 97 ships, 212, again, more than double my total attack factor. Unbelievable. And 403 defense with a 409 defense factor, because of course they have a couple of frigates that are crippled. The Federation have 69 ship equivalents. 69 ship equivalents with 152 total attack, 274 defense, 276 fleet cap. The Hydrons, down in our bottom right corner, have 53 ships with the 116, 116, attack 230, defense 232, fleet cap. The ISC, which we'll get to in a second, just above my head here in the top right corner of the map, have a total of 35 ships, so a few more than the Borak, 79 total attack factor, 169 defense, 173 fleet cap. The Klingons, they have 88 ships. Apparently there was a slight error that was made in our last map where some ships that were not on what you can see, but they were sort of hidden in sort of off map that were counting towards the ship equivalent. So if it seemed like all of a sudden the Klingon fleet grew massively, that was an error. Anyways, they have a total of 88 ships. Much more reasonable. 204 total attack factor, 366 defense, 407 fleet cap. Quite the difference there, because of course they have a whole bunch of F4s they're still repairing. The Kzinti have 53 ships in their fleet with a 127 attack, 222 defense, matching their fleet cap completely. The Lyrans, 43 total ships, so that's a good number. 99 attack, 219 defense with a 223 fleet cap. Like I said, in the Galactic news, they attacked the Romulans. It'll be interesting to see how that works out. The Paravians, our guys down below, have 19 total ships, by far the smallest fleet in the game. 66 attack, 136 defense. It'll be interesting to see how that moves forward. The Tholians, last folks on our list, have 66, Route 66. Total ships, 118 attack. That's pretty good for the Tholians. 118 attack, 312 defense, 312 fleet cap. I got to say, I'm impressed with those numbers. That's pretty good. Okay, so again, looking at that, remember that the Carnarvon have three times the total ships that the Borak have. Something very close to that, to the ISC. So the ISC and the Borak combined, don't even have enough to go against the Carnarvon. That's pretty crazy. As we saw, the Carnarvon are exploring in force. Great. It'll be very interesting to see now that the Borak are bumping up against them, and of course the ISC have done the same on this border here. You can see as I remove the ships, they've got a path through. It'll be interesting to see how the interactions go. Will we see borders established between Carnarvon, Borak, and ISC players, or will we see something else? I'll be very interested to see. We'll talk about the YouTube short that you might have seen when we get to the ISC. Okay, so that's our Carnarvon friends. Let's slide over to the ISC, and I'll just move my head to the other side because I'm already thinking I'm going to get in the way. All right, let's look at the ISC. Again, ISC constraints is that they are tiny in footprint, obviously small in fleet size, much like the Borak, but they are expanding, doing their best to be able to bump out those borders and really make some goals or make some gains to be able to get towards and establish a good border between Carnarvon, Borak, and basically their neighbors. This hotel wormhole, again, just as a reminder, pops down here in Federation space, so it'll be interesting to see. No real big news here from the ISC, although note that they are building a YBS here. They have established a YBS up here. And if we look at their fleet distribution, we can see that there is moving the fleets out to the points of contact, not only with wormholes, but of course on the borders with their different folks. So for example, let's pull up the ISC named echelons, which is all these little boxes here. So Integrity Fleet, that's a command cruiser with a destroyer. Justice Fleet, which is a CA. You've got Judgment Fleet, which is a CA and a DD. Enforcement Fleet, which is a CC and a DD. And then, of course, some number fleets. So nothing large, but a presence nonetheless to be able to sort of, establish a presence. Let's look at some of the numbered fleets as well. ISC, let's look at 2nd, 5th, and 3rd, just by example. So 2nd, 3rd, and 5th. Okay, so 2nd Fleet, which is up here, you can see it's just a large exploration freighter with an escort. So that's this guy right here. 5th Fleet, which is right here, again, survey ship with a cruiser escort and a prime team. So just doing some surveying. And then 3rd Fleet down here, large exploration freighter with an escort frigate. They're doing their thing. So no big craziness here, just kind of doing the constant exploration and expansion. Again, the total fleet count or ship count for the ISC fleet, it'll be interesting to see what happens as we go forward. All right. Now, ISC going into the Borak. So the Borak and the ISC, if you haven't already seen the short, it's just a fun little short. They've established a mutual defense treaty or pact or agreement, an MDA. So they have a mutual defense agreement, and they've established a border, and they're going to mutually defend each other. Now, why would you do that in this early part of the game? Well, obviously, there is the potential for stuff to go sideways between some of our neighbors here. And so it is just a good way to provide a little insurance for the smaller folks on the map so that they don't get gobbled up by the big Pac-Man. So, and I know Pac-Man's yellow and the IC are yellow. That's not what I mean. But I mean, there is a larger empire, somebody out there who's a little bit bigger, gobbling up space. And you just want to make sure that you're not going to be the next one gobbled in this in this equation. So with that said, that's kind of how things are going in this regard. You have the Carnarvon moving towards the ISC and the Borak now in a mutual defense agreement. Who knows? Maybe the Carnarvon, the Borak, and the ISC can come together and form their own mutual defense agreement, like a trifecta, helping each other. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be cool? Like a little Northern NATO here. That'd be fun. Certainly, that would allow the Carnarvon to move in a direction once they've established borders with the other two. Same thing with the Borak and the IC. It'll be very interesting to see how that evolves going forward. So sliding into the Borak had a big jump this past turn. I think they went from, I think it was like 59 to 63. So just as an indicator to show you why this is happening, good rolls, like just lucky. But if you look at the ship count, look at, as I fluctuate these ships, look how many ships are floating around. Again, because of the Borak, we'll call it the menu of ships that can be built, the ships suck. The destroyers and the frigates suck for the Borak and the Wire. They're just terrible. And so the best ship they can build are cruisers. So we've been building cruisers, but there is a limitation on how many cruisers you can build per turn. You can only have one slipway. There's a total of 2 YCA slipways and a CC slipway that you can have. So there's a maximum number of slipways that you can have and the maximum number of ships you can build. So basically, it's either 1 or 2 cruisers a turn that you can build, and that's what we're building. So that's what's going on here. So we've got a whole bunch of cruisers and command cruisers floating around. So you can see up here, we'll zoom in one more. So in the border area next to the Carnarvon, we've got a bunch of these command cruisers and cruisers just basically doing exploration. We've got a base right here where their prime team is. And again, ships are just doing exploration, which is fantastic because, it's kind of necessary. Super necessary. So exploration of all these spaces. I'm going to be building out bases to be able to facilitate the expansion. And of course, remember, we want to, at least from the Borak side, it's all about trade, right? So we've got, if we take away ships real quick, you can see we've got the Romulans and the Remans. Now, the Remans are unhappy with the Carnarvon. The Romulans are indifferent. This is important to note. But with these two factions here with YDKs, this is a great opportunity to trade, at least for the Borak perspective. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's within, or 4 hexes, a minimum of 4 hexes between YDKs to be able to establish trade. So that would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a perfect distance. Upgrade this bad boy to a YDK and send some convoys to these bad boys, and we can establish trade between these folks. And that would be fantastic because it's all about the trade. It's all about it's all about the Benjamins, baby. Or in this case, I guess, gold press latinum. All right. So we've got that happening there, and of course the same thing happening in the corner around the Lyrans. Now, big thing here, obviously bases are being built. This is getting upgraded to a YDK because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, there's a base right there that we can establish trade with. But now that we've cracked through the fog of war, we can establish contact with these Romulans, and good things can happen. So that again is the focus of the Borak and what we're doing when it comes to trade. So we've established that, and we've got lots of ships here supporting the exploration of trade. And the other 2 directions we've got in the southerly direction, you can see there's very little activity here, but we do have large exploration freighters doing their business, as you can see, working on exploration. And in the top right corner, which is where we've made contact with the ISC, and I will slide over here, as we've made contact with the ISC. So we've got, if we take away the ships real quick, we've got some stuff happening in this area. Nothing too crazy. This will build a base eventually, hopefully. I hope. I pray. And this YSR is getting repaired here at this YBS. You may have noticed there are some strangers in the dark who have popped their heads out and are looking to say hi to our YBS. Now, it's interesting. The YBS, I believe, will be able to defend itself against these horrible invaders, but we are going to have to provide them some kind of backup because these bad boys are going to do terrible things if we don't, which is bad because, of course, the I guess it would be small-scale combat. I don't remember if small-scale combat can be done with bases. Maybe it can. Either way, these bad boys are going to be problematic, and we're going to have to send ships out to sort this out, because last time we had raiders like this show up, they were AI. There was I don't know if you remember, more than a couple live streams ago, we encountered a constellation of ships much like this. They tried to use a virus to be able to take over our computers and short-circuited our systems on one of the cruisers, or tried to anyway. It was only through smart thinking and air gapping the computer that we made initial contact with that we were able to protect ourselves and identify that this was a threat. So the question is, are these the same perpetrators of that ponderously prolific encounter, or are they something else? Only time will tell, and the interactions in the roleplay with the GM, we shall see. Interesting to note. All right, so you can see interactions with the ISC, relatively simple. Interactions sort of down towards the border with the Federation, relatively simple. Where's all the heat and the action? It's all up in here, baby. We've got interactions with the Lyrans and the Romulans and what's going on here, and of course, the potential interactions with the Carnivon. What will happen? Only time will tell. All right, now before I jump into the Lyrans, let's jump back into the chat because there's so much to discuss. All right. Okay, so we're going all the way back to Big Slow Target. He says the derelict is new, referring to his derelict in his space. Okay, Julian, I love all of you, but I'm rooting for the Borak. Woohoo! Way to go, Julian. Want to see if the Borak can be a lever in the diplomacy of the mega powers to their north. I agree. The Borak are never going to be one of the big powers in this game. I don't see that happening. But they can certainly be a facilitator of different relationships with what's going on. Much like Canada is a medium power, so to speak, we can exert our diplomatic influence and help navigate the troubled waters of a diplomatic interaction between some of these players. But we will never be the equivalent of a superpower in this particular game, without a doubt. Big Slow Target says, really? They have supply for? Seems I should know about that. Tick, tick, tick. Yeah, nice game. Nice game there, Big EST. I think you've got supply for. That's my guess. Or maybe it's all fake news. Who knows? Bill Smith, Lost Muskie. What's down? Not much. Sunny weather. How you doing? Good to know there's some sun on the East Coast. Daniel Eastland says, small ship combat happens with any kind of units as long as each side has fewer than 4 units and fewer than 19 defense factors. Okay, so it would be small scale combat. Of course, the base can't retreat. So will there be casualties? And if a casualty results in a SIDS damage, I'd be interested to know how that's going to go. Excuse me. But it would be interesting to find out and see how that works out. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, in this, we're going to roll back into the map here a second. We're going to go through the Lyrans, the Kzinti, and the Feds, and then we'll do some chatting, and then we'll roll through the Tholians, the Paravians, and the Hydrons. All right. Let's slide back in to the map. All right. Let's look at our good friends, the Lyrans. All right. So in the Galactic News, GNN, you saw that there was an attack on the Romulan home fleet. Let's look at minor fleets, pull up minor empires, and let's look at the Romulan home fleet. Okay, so I can see that there are 6 crippled YSNs. Interesting to note. Now, YSNs, just for demonstrations purposes, look at this frigate. If I flip it to a crippled, it cripples to a 1. So it's a 2-3, cripples to a 1. Flat 1, which means it takes 2 points to repair. Why are you showing me that, Tony? Because a YDK has a total of 8 points of repair capability, meaning that it can repair 4 ships. There are 6 frigates damaged. It can only repair 4 of them. So this is eventually going to be a losing battle for the Romulans. They are going to get to a point where they're going to get taken out. It's just a matter of time, unless the fleet of First Legion, which is right next to it, decides to participate in the defense of Romulus. We'll have to see how that works out. It'll be interesting to see. Okay, so we've seen the Romulan fleet. Now let's look at the Lyran fleet. So Lyran home fleet, booyah. All right. So you can, oh no, let's put that, where should I put that? Let's put that right there. Okay, so Lyran home fleet has a dreadnought, heavy dreadnought at 6'8". It has 5 cruisers, total of 3 light cruisers, 2 of which are crippled, interesting to note. So 2 crippled light cruisers, and they're 3.5. So that will take a total of 2 points. So it'll take 4 EP to repair, and they can totally repair those ships in this next turn. So the Lyrans are coming back hard, for sure. They've got a total of 6 destroyers and a frigate. So the Lyrans are going to be able to come back hard on this. And keep in mind, they also have 1, 2, 3, 4, another 4 DDs. So they've got a total of 10 destroyers. They're going to take Romulus in one way or another, unless something dramatic happens. And I don't know that anybody can do anything about it. Interesting. Okay. Something to think about. Okay. So, right. Yeah. And they've also got a troop transport here with 4 G factors on board, so they could bring it in to do damage. Now, keeping in mind that the Romulan homeworld has 8 planetary ground bases, a YDK, so they've got the EW advantage, and the YDK and the planetary ground bases add a lot to the firepower. They just don't have as much cushion to be able to soak up damage. What they do have, though, is Dreadnought at 7.8, which is a little bit better than the Lyran one, and they got that Falcon. 7 points of directed damage. Ooh, yes. I like that ship. I like it. So if I'm the Romulans, and of course we'll see what the GM does when managing the battle, but I would want to target and destroy Lyran ships ASAP. Probably cruisers, in my opinion. But again, 3 attack. Maybe they can pop light cruisers. It's probably maybe that, or I don't know. Anyways, lots of options. Okay, so but that is the focal point. Excuse me. That is the predominant focal point of all Lyran forces. That's where the meat is, right there. We also got Foremost Fleet here. Let's just take a quick look. Foremost Fleet. Here we go. So they got a CA and a DD there, along with some prime teams and a research team. So nothing really. This is home fleet. This is the focal point of all the offensive firepower that they have in this area. Pretty nutty. Absolutely. So what are the Lyrans going to do? Are they going to just wipe these Romulans off the face of the earth? It's going to be interesting. How is everybody going to respond to that? I mean, I don't know, right? Like, I don't know. Certainly the Borak aren't really in a position to be able to defend them. Oh, it's going to be interesting. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Let's look at the Kzinti, my friends. The Kzinti. Let's zoom out one just to get a little bit of a bigger picture. So you can see they've got their little box, which is very nice. They've established a border with the Federation. I'm assuming that this resource will flip once they move a ship up there to Kzinti control, and the Federation will establish their border there. So that's good. I'm going to guess, based on where the bases are, that the Kzinti reached out and popped at least one of these bases over here, because I think there was a base in Bravo 40. Yeah, I think there was. Anyways, possibly there was some base popping happening. Regardless, though, the Kzinti are in a fantastic position. As you can see here, command cruisers, frigates, drone bombardment ships ready to deploy should they need to. Task Force Cosnet on the other side, and not much else. Duke, Home, Earl. Interesting, all these fleets are heading down south, particularly because that's where the Paravians are. This will be interesting. Very interesting. I'm very interested to see the interaction between the Kzinti, knowing the Kzinti player, and the Paravians, knowing the Paravian player, and how that's going to work out, because it'll be very enlightening, I think. I think it'll be very insightful to see what's happening in that regard. What else can we see here with these good old Kzinti folks? As we saw, their fleet count is not small. They've got in the 50s total number of ships. Duke, Home, and Earl. Let's just pull up. Where are you, Kzinti? Where are you? Here you are. Okay, so we've got Home Fleet. Let's pick up Earl and Duke, just because, I like my royalty. Earl, like the tea, and Duke, like the dog. All right, so here we go. We got Duke. That's on the top. Then we've got Home Fleet, and then we've got Earl. Trying to position them relative to where they are on the map. So you can see Duke has got a DN, CC, and a couple FFs there. That's nice. With a strike cruiser, a couple command cruiser, strike cruiser, and a frigate in the area. So that's good. By the way, the DN with a prime team has the same ability to explore as a survey ship, like with a prime team. So they're really good at exploring. So that'll be good. In Home Fleet, another DN, couple CCs, 3 of them, trifecta, and 3 FFs. So they're also exploring in force. And then you got a survey ship with a frigate escort in Earl Fleet with a tug supporting. So they're going to build some stuff, obviously, to be able to build out the logistical support. So that's good. They're doing a lot of exploration, it would seem, which is fantastic. Let's take away the ships real quick. No bases under construction that I can see right now, but that's probably just because they're positioning themselves in the right way. In the north, we've got Ally 4 and 5 fleet. Curious what they're doing with those. Alliance 4, Kzinti Alliance 5. Okay, so these are just exploration fleets, essentially. And then down here, we've got Olympus fleet doing some exploration with those guys there. So just from a armchair admiral perspective, it looks really interesting how the Kzinti have pushed out and established borders quickly with some of their neighbors, but leaving a clear funnel on where they want to go. So if I was sort of like reading the tea leaves a little bit here, a bit of an Earl Grey joke, then it kind of looks like they're focusing their orientation towards the Paravians. I wonder. Knowing the player who's playing the Kzinti, it'll be very interesting to see what happens. Just saying. It'll be interesting. Okay. All right. Let's, okay, I'm going to slide back to the chat real quick, and then we will jump into the Tholians, the Paravians, and the Hydrants. So let's slide back. I'll see you in a sec. All right. Okay, so, Julian, alternative alacrity accelerates unabated. I like your alliteration. Daniel, base chance for a ship to explore Hex is 5 to 6 on a D6. Y sensors give you a penalty of -1. So a 1 in 6 chance for a lone Y cruiser. It's pretty bad. So it was just really lucky rolls when it came to the Borak finding anything. Daniel says, size class 2 ships, i.e. dreadnoughts, and battleships have a +1 to their roll. Scouts have a +1 to their roll. Survey ships have a +1 to their roll. So again, dreadnought with a prime team is the same as a survey ship with a prime team. Actually, I believe if we look, scouts have a +1, survey ships have a +2. A +2, I believe. I would check that. So the +2, that's absolutely what it is. Because, so it's +2 and the prime team gives you a +1, which gives a total of +3. Mistake, survey ships have a +2. So a survey ship, a dreadnought with a prime team has the same chance to explore as a survey ship on its own, vanilla, without a prime team. Right. Okay. Cool. Size class, prime team gives you a +1. The size class of a ship has an influence. So size class 2 ships, which I believe are dreadnoughts. Yeah, that's dreadnoughts. Size class 3 ships are cruisers. Size class 4 ships, strange how the numbers go up for a smaller class of ship, but whatever. Size class 4 ships are destroyers and frigates. So that gives you a sense. of how that works. Okay, let's slide back and we will talk about the Tholians, the Paravians, and the Hydrons. Here we go. All right. So here we are, the Tholians. Now, we talked about these guys briefly when we talked about the Klingons because, well, that Juliet wormhole. That Juliet wormhole is so close, just as a reminder. We'll take away the ships real quick. Whoop. Oh, wrong one. There we go. Look how close that wormhole is to their homeworld. It is 1, 2, 3 hexes away, which means if they have wormhole tech, they can travel through that wormhole in one operational movement with Y ships and go past that with M ships. Ladies and gentlemen, Big Slow Target has just fired a photon of goodness, lubricating my larynx. Thank you, sir. Oh, yes. Okay. All right. So let's slide back down here. We have an errant E1T, that is a theater transport, crippled most likely through the transit of that wormhole, floating around in unknown space, fog of war. The Tholians are looking to corral it into some way. Perhaps they're looking to gain control of that ship and then do something with it. Who knows? We will have to just wait and see. But the Tholians are certainly expanding in the direction of this wormhole, perhaps to plug with a base. We shall see. I don't know how well or how poorly the interaction is, the diplomatic conversations are between the Klingons and the Tholians. I have a sense, knowing the player, for the Tholians that, well, things are not going to go well one way or the other, depending on how the Klingons approach it. We'll have to see, but it's going to be entertaining one way or another. As I watch the interactions, if I can see them on our Discord channel, I will try and forward those entertaining communications with you as we go. Incidentally, if you haven't already, please feel free to use that link down below me or the QR code that you saw on the other screen to head over to Coffee and get the Coffee and Discord tier. That way, you can just head on over to our Discord channel and check things out on your own. Participate in that witty banter, that back and forth, and you can read up on the latest narrative story play. Story play? That's not really a word. The up-to-date narrative on what's going on between players. It's very exciting. At least entertaining, I find it. Specifically for the Tholian player. Okay, so let's talk about these Kentucky Fried Chicken Paravians. Why do I say that? Paravians are in the Starfleet universe. We're talking about Starfleet universe, IP and all that. They are basically a variation of the Gorn. Just as dinosaurs turned into birds, as the current hypothesis is, basically Paravians are feathered Gorn. So they have a lot of similarities and they use plasma-based weapons and so on and so forth. So what is the unique thing about the Paravians? Well, they're kind of like Mongols. I think that's the best way to describe them. They are ranging, roaming, very highly mobile as far as a characteristic of their gameplay. Why is that and how is that? Well, so whereas normal factions have tugs and various support craft that are not well armed, for example, the Federation tug, by example, is you can see it right here, is a 1 attack, 4 defense. The Borak one is 2-5, I believe. Hold on, let me just take a quick look. 2-6, 2-6 is the Borak tug. And other factions have different tugs as well. I think the Klingons are a 1. Let's just take a quick look. The Klingon tug is a 1-6, right? So, but the Paravians have a battle tug. Even in the Y era, their battle tug, or their tug, is the equivalent of their cruiser. It's a 4-6 ship. And it has all the perks of a tug. It can carry pods. It can do all sorts of stuff. And there are Paravian technologies, specifically certain ship types, that allow them to be able to supply other ships outside of their normal supply range. So they can be outside their normal supply grid. And as long as they have one of these ships, motherships, which are like a dreadnought basically, they can provide supply to their fleet. It's phenomenal, and they move quickly and do bad things. So, but is that the way the player is playing them? At the moment, definitely not. Remember, they only have 16 total ships in their fleet. That's tiny. But look at their footprint. When you look at their footprint, and again, let's just zoom out for context, right? Look at their footprint relative to the Tholians. They're a little bit bigger. Look at their footprint relative to the Federation. Comparable. Versus the Kzinti, they are noticeably bigger. If we compare them to the Borak, if I can slide up here, the Borak are noticeably smaller. Same thing with the Larians, same thing with the IC. The only factions that really dwarf them to any particular degree are the Carnarvon and the Klingon. I would say the Hydrons are a little bit bigger than the Paravians, but not by much. And the Paravians, up to this point, economically, are pretty good. They're right above the Borak at this point with 68 total economy. So pretty good. They are, knowing the player, they are systemically conducting their operations and searching and surveying, and they're doing a very predictable job in their exploration. What is not predictable is the degree to which they have no ships. The 16 ships that they have versus where's all their money going? And here's the kicker as we zoom in. The Paravians don't have any ships because they are diverting the funds they would normally build ships with to tech. Why are they doing that? Well, and this goes to sort of, the gripes we were talking about before. There are certain factions in this game, the Paravians being one of them, that don't have the same sort of wealth and breadth of background that a lot of the other factions have. Klingons, the Romulans, the Federation, those are like our staple factions in this game, right? And they have these very sort of robust backgrounds and early years information, and they have like a wide variety of different ships when they're introduced, like when they came online and things like that. The Paravians don't have that same breadth. So in this game, the normal tabletop F&E, everything happens in the General War. The General War in this game being a distinct technological milestone. There are 4 levels of technology. General War is the last and most advanced. Below that is the M, or the Middle Era. Below that is the Y Era, and then W. So W is 1, Y is 2, M is 3, and GW is 4. Because of the lack of background, Paravian ships, when they come into the M era, are basically GW ships. There is no significant difference between M and GW for the Paravians. Now, that is good and bad in the sense that when they get to M, their ships are effectively GW ships. They have 6 movement, they have the attack factors of GW ships, basically, and they are phenomenal. They are going to disproportionately outperform other factions in the same era. That being said, when they go to GW, and I know this from experience, having played the Paravians in a couple games ago, when they go to GW, they don't get the same perks that some other factions get. So just like their M-era ships will outperform many factions, their GW ships will underperform because there's no difference. And that will be something significant. So why am I saying that, and why do we care about that, Tony? The Paravians have not spent any money on building ships. Not really. So what are they spending money on? Tech. They're building out a tech rush, and they are going to be they're going to be at M era soon. And when they get to M era, they will be as effective basically as they will be in GW. There's a couple ships that will come online later that in late M and GW that they can accelerate. That will give them some advantages, but effectively, Paravians are going to be badass MFs in the M era, and that's coming soon. So for all the neighbors to the Paravians, watch out. The Paravians, my guess, are going to hit M era in the next 5 turns. That's a guess. And then they're going to start deploying their ships ASAP. You're going to see basically 8 ships, 8 attack, 8 defense cruisers, and it's going to be interesting as they get out. Now, that being said, if we look at, let's just take away the ships real quick. Look at the distribution of the base network in the Paravian Empire. So it's all 2 hexes, mutually supported. And there's a very clear pattern of, on the cardinal points of north, northeast, northwest, they're building out these YDKs at a distance of 4 hexes. And I guarantee you that at a distance of 8 hexes, they're going to build another ring of YDKs. I would watch for this, because those YDKs in combination with those M ships are going to be brutal, and it's going to allow them to be able to move fast and break things. And if I'm this player, and I know this player well, they're going to just sit tight until they're in a perfect position, and then they're going to go. And you just need to be ready for when they go, because when they rush you, because of the nature of this particular faction, they're going to be able to do a lot of damage fast. And considering this wormhole, the Delta wormhole, goes into Borak space, that's something the Borak are thinking about. All right, let's slide my head to the other side, like so. And let's talk about our friends in green, the Hydrons. Now, we were talking about ships that outperform in M era. Let me tell you, the Hydrons are OP in M. They get fighters faster than anybody else, and their fighter ships give them a distinct and really significant advantage. In the M era, not that their ships are, or that their M era technologies are somehow better, notably better than anybody else, the fighters are just a feature of the Hydrons. They get them early, and that feature gives them a distinct advantage. They can take damage on those fighters that auto-renew or auto-replenish the next turn, as opposed to a ship that gets crippled. You have to take it to a space station or a dock and repair it. The fighters just pay money and they get replenished right away. You don't have to move that ship anywhere. That is a distinct strategic advantage. So those fighters get replenished quickly. They can also, of course, take damage preserving or protecting the ship. And his ships in the M era are going to be comparable to most M era ships. 7 attack, 8 defense, or something like that. With the fighters included, it's going to more than equal the attack and defense factors of the Paravians. So this is a good balance between the Hydrons and the Paravians here. It'll be interesting to see who gets to M-Tech first and when they deploy their M ships. Paravians could get it tomorrow, and the Hydrons still have some time before they actually make contact, so that's not a big concern on my end. But interesting, just as, again, the armchair admiral looking at this, if the Hydrons are interested in doing so, they can aggressively move and build out their border defenses so that when the time comes, they can just roll like a rolling wave, just sweep into Paravian territory. But again, watch out, that Paravian player, he is like methodical in his process. He will build up a strong defense, and it'll be really tough to take him out. But it'll be interesting regardless. With that said, though, now we can see all these ships, or all these fleets rather, and these are basically exploration fleets because we've seen them before, and they're pushing out and exploring out into this fog of war. Here's the kicker, though. Notice this open space based on this border. If I'm the Hydrons, I am pushing hard into the north. Just like for the Borak, we're going to push hard into this southeastern section. And so I think what's going to end up happening is going to be the Hydrons are probably going to get a little bit of a bubble up here. The Feds are going to push into this corner like a wedge, and the Borak are going to get down to here. So it's going to look a little blobby, but basically it's this is going to be an interesting shape for sure. But the Hydrons can certainly really push out their footprint by land grabbing some territory up here quickly, ASAP. So that's really good. It's gonna be phenomenal. And like I say, when those M ships come for the Hydrons, watch out. It's gonna be bad. Okay, so you can see base building up here in the north, excellent. Base building in the south to be able to facilitate getting out here, excellent. I think the Hydrons, I don't know, they're in a really good spot. Honestly, they're in a really good spot. I see them doing great things and moving forward fast. It's going to be good. All right, so that is the Hydrons, the Paravians, and the Tholians, and that rounds out our map. Let's head back. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh, we are 60% of the way. 2 more coffees, and we are at our goal. I can see now that we've got a double digit still on those of you who are staying with us here today on the live stream, an hour and 38 minutes in. If you haven't already, be like Alan Weber if you're still with us and hit that subscribe button, join us. And if you are all about tickling the YouTube ivories, then feel free to hit that like button. And if you want to join us after this live stream on our Discord channel, then you can head over and get that coffee and Discord tier, either with a QR code or that link in the corner, also pinned, by the way, in the chat. And you can head over to our Discord channel, and we can have that banter back and forth. You can read the narrative and the role play that's going on behind the scenes, and you too can get into the depth and exciting story that is what's going on here on Star Trek New Worlds. This particular campaign is our New Horizons campaign. Let's just quickly, I see Julian. Thanks, Daniel. If the die roll will cooperate, yes, sometimes the die are sticky and they roll just the wrong way. Daniel says, interesting to see how the neutral zones are being negotiated, or complete lack of neutral zones. It's a good indicator of the attitude of each player in the current political climate. I agree, and that's why I worry as a Borat player about the Carnivon, Les Masquerade. I worry because there are no neutral zones. So what does that mean? How is this going to go? What's going on? It worries me when we don't have agreed borders. And just because that is sort of the normal status quo on how this game is played. Now, that being said, we don't have to have neutral zones. That's fine. We don't have to have neutral zones. But how do we agree on the border then? I'll be interested to have that conversation with you, Lost Muskrat. And of course, you let me know your thoughts when we're over on our Discord channel. So we'll be heading over there, toot de suite. For those of you who have followed along up to this point, thank you so much for joining us. It has been an exciting day today, and I am looking forward to next week as we roll into possibly revisiting our Splintered Will campaign. We'll see. But I know that our phenomenal MVP GM, Daniel, will make sure that we have content for New Horizons one way or another. With that said, thank you so much, everybody. I will see you next week. Same time, same bat channel. Ciao for now.